Okay. All right. So we're getting started 20 minutes late because none of our friends joined. Sad face. That's okay. So this might not be what we were going to talk about, but we're going to take this opportunity to go through what Shay and I have put together for Ethereum JSON RPC specification. Explain kind of what it is, a very brief explanation of why we're doing it, and then we'll conclude. So what is Ethereum JSON RPC specification? Shane, do you want to start?
Yeah, so the idea is that we need a list of the methods and what basically the interface description for these methods for an Ethereum client. And hopefully that's like a standard thing across all EVM-based blockchains. So this is what we put together, and with some feedback from the community on what those base methods should be and how to describe them.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, just to complement that, JSONRPC is the way in which most users of blockchains interact with a client. Nearly all blockchains have JSONRPC interfaces, and a lot of them share similar methods. Specifically, EVM-based blockchains share a common subset, especially in the case of Ethereum Classics, various client implementations, as well as Ethereums. And so the idea here being that we want to create a specification that encompasses all of the base JSONRPC methods that would be expected for a client to have implemented. And so if you're building a client and you implement this set of methods, then we can say that it is a EVM compliant client, so to speak, meaning that it'll implement all of these base methods that other software packages might expect to beat it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that's good.
So maybe let's talk a little, very, very briefly, because it can easily snowball. But let's talk very briefly about the why then. So, I mean, there's obvious reasons for why having a specification for a particular client is useful. But like, why do we want to have a base one for all Ethereum clients? Do you want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, so I think abilities, version changes, that kind of stuff. And like the idea is try not to break downstream, like dapps, clients, all that kind of stuff, right? And this isn't anything new. It's been done before in 1474, but it was done in Markdown format, which is helpful. But when you're trying to, say, write tests or basically do anything with the spec, it kind of starts to break down at that point. So the idea here with is that it's all in OpenRPC specification. It's in an OpenRPC document, and that looks like this.
I think,
like that.
I'm not sure if it's my internet or your internet, but one of our internets is cutting out, so it's kind of hard to hear you.
Okay.
But I caught a bunch of that. But yeah, sorry. I think it's better now. Maybe continue.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I was just talking about how we have this JSON file that represents the interface definition for this instead of Markdown, and that gets us a lot of stuff. One of those just being a nice form of documentation, and you can see that on the playground. There's a link to that there as well. And it's similar to 1474, but it actually gives us machine-readable specification, which lets us do other things like I just show documentation. You can do clients, you can do mock servers, you can do a lot of stuff with this, and stuff that we haven't even thought of yet.
So, yeah, for sure. But I mean, for the why, I think you brought up that ECIP or EIP 1474. So I think that one did a particularly good job of explaining the why, I think. And like, why do we want to have a base level of JSONRPC methods? And in one simple sentence right there at the top, both Ethereum client developers and downstream dapp developers lack a formal Ethereum RPC specification. And that makes it difficult to build applications, or decentralized applications that are agnostic to the client being used. Yeah. So most of the time, if you build a dapp, your dapp will only work for a particular client. That's not a guarantee, but it's a possibility, just because the door's open for great variance in between client implementations of these JSONRPC methods. And having a base specification for the interfaces of these methods will allow dapp developers to remain agnostic to the client, and therefore the client becomes a dapp user's decision rather than something you have to package with your app or run yourself via Infura, AWS, whatever. Yeah. And then certainly, like what you're hinting on there is that 1474 sort of outlined the need for this and why it would be good. And alongside that EIP, we've been building out OpenRPC, which is it's a standard for describing JSONRPC interfaces that we intend to support for a very long time, and it remains chain agnostic. So we will never have Ethereum specifics in OpenRPC, just as we'll never have Bitcoin specifics in there. And with that, it provides a very stable way to represent the RPC methods, and should have much better longevity than a Ethereum specific description of JSONRPC. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Just for sake of brevity, is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
No, we have an EIP up for this. If you want to check it out.
Cool.
It goes into talking about here. More specific about Ethereum implementations.
Cool. Yeah, so to end it off, if anyone's still watching, if you're part of Ethereum or any Ethereum ecosystem, The ask of you is to review this base level RPC specification, create discussion around it if you agree or disagree with what we're doing with it. Also, we'd like to, well, the intent of this meeting was to bring together some people from Ethereum, some people from Ethereum Classic, hopefully others. Unfortunately, we fell shy of our goal of more than just 2 people. And so I asked that we carry on this discussion and hopefully get together and have a meeting where we can hash this stuff out. And obviously, a spec is worthless unless it has other people who agree and who